Hey everyone, if you couldn't tell, I'm in a jump around kind of mood as we kick off this week's edition of Brad Carroll's Game Day. My 0-7 record is a thing of the distant past, as I wasted no time going back to my winning ways last Saturday. Craig, the statement-sending mystery man, was 2-5 for the second week in a row, and Anthony, my friend, you were back in your usual spot, under 500. The stars have realigned, Brad is back on top, and I couldn't be happier.
I give you credit for bouncing back this week, but you still went 0-7. I have never gone 0-7, I never will go 0-7, and I will never let you forget that you went 0-7. So I feel pretty good, and I'm checking the stats because I don't think I'm under 500 every week.
Well, Jump Around, of course, is pretty much a theme song for the University of Wisconsin, and it's fitting that we play that to open the show after the Badgers upset top-ranked Ohio State last week. I got the pick right with the points, and I'll even give Anthony some extra props for picking Wisconsin straight up.
Yeah, I picked Wisconsin straight up. I felt that they were going to do what happens this time of year. Undefeated conference teams go on the road against good conference opponents and they start to lose. That's why people don't stay undefeated very long, and I think we're going to see more of that as we continue.
Wisconsin was impressive, but the top team on my list this week is the Auburn Tigers. With Cam Newton leading an offense that scored 65 points last week against Arkansas, the Tigers have a legitimate shot at a national title. I love the Tigers almost as much as I love the Oregon Ducks. Oregon absolutely destroyed UCLA Thursday night, 60-13. Those two teams are my early favorites to play for a national title.
Yeah, these are two teams that you have to love. They can score a lot of points.
All right, let's move forward to a Saturday full of tremendous matchups. 7 games, 7 picks, here we go. The 10th-ranked Wisconsin Badgers travel to number 13 Iowa as 5.5-point underdogs. Beating Ohio State in their own building is one thing, but going on the road and taking down a talented Hawkeyes team could be asking a lot of the Badgers. Can they make it 2 upsets in a row?
It's going to be very challenging. They're excited after beating Ohio State, but they better not take this week off because they're going into Iowa where they've not had a lot of success recently. I expect a smash-mouth Big Ten game. Watch for turnovers, possibly setting up offenses. Wisconsin 12th in the nation in rushing. Iowa 7th against the run. That'll be an interesting matchup to watch. I like Iowa in this game, 17-14.
I don't see the Badgers suffering the same hangover South Carolina did after beating the top-ranked team in the nation. With a great offensive line blocking for running back John Clay, Wisconsin should control the line of scrimmage and keep the ball away from Ricky Stanzi and the talented Iowa offense. This is going to be a close game that isn't decided until the final minute, and I'm going with the upset. Wisconsin 27, Iowa 24. The only team to beat Wisconsin this season is Michigan State, and the 8th-ranked Spartans head to Northwestern Saturday afternoon as 5.5-point favorites. Michigan State has surprised just about everyone this season, as its 7-0 record is the Spartans' best start in 44 years. Michigan State, however, can't sleep on the Wildcats.
No, they cannot, and they better have been paying attention to that Kentucky-South Carolina game you talked about earlier, because this is the exact same type of trap game. On the road against an unranked conference opponent who, by the way, Northwestern, 5-1 on the season. They're pretty good. Look out for their quarterback, Dan Persa. He takes care of the ball, he can run a little bit, and he leads the nation with a 78% pass completion percentage. He's outstanding. I think he leads the Northwestern Wildcats to an upset this week, 27-24.
Wow, in a similar situation last week, Michigan State trailed an overmatched Illinois squad at the half before pulling away in the second. That could help the Spartans here, as they know firsthand they can't take an inferior opponent lightly, especially a Big Ten rival 2 weeks in a row. Michigan State should have no problem with the Wildcats. Michigan State 31, Northwestern 20. Up next is a mega showdown in the SEC.
We're not going to get there because here comes everyone's favorite guy. He's left his message right here on the table for us.
This time, wow.
Here it is.
Here's Craig Carroll's statement. Here we go. It looks like my stay on top of the standings lasted as long as Ohio State's did. 1 week. Another 2-5 week is very disappointing, but I'm not going to blame the teams for my performance, as some other member of the show, who I won't mention, has in the past. Who am I kidding? It was Anthony, who had another 3-4 week and is probably doing backflips over that.
3-4 is better than 2-5 last I checked.
That's true. Brad didn't do well either, but at least he had a winning record. Too bad he doesn't have a winning personality. That's harsh.
Taking shots at people's personality, though? Since when is he Mr. Personality?
On to my picks. West Virginia giving 14. Nebraska giving 5.5. Iowa giving 5.5. Michigan State giving 5.5. Tennessee getting 17. Oklahoma giving 3. And for my game of the week, the Tigers take on the Tigers, and the Tigers will win.
That's interesting.
That's interesting. Okay, seriously. LSU travels to Auburn as 5.5-point underdogs. Auburn is much better on offense, defense, and special teams. And they have a guy named Cam Newton who will further his lead in the Heisman running with a rout of a bad LSU team. 35-10.
Yeah, Cam Newton is the hot Heisman choice right now, and for good reason. He totaled over 300 yards of offense, had 4 touchdowns in one of the wildest games in recent memory that Auburn won last week against Arkansas, putting up 65 points. LSU, that team that defines, just barely winning. I don't know how they do it. They don't seem to look good. Every week you think their shortcomings are going to catch up with them, and I'll say it again this week. I think they're going to catch up with them this week. I think Auburn wins this game behind Cam Newton. Auburn's defense does scare me a little, but I don't think LSU has the offense to take advantage. Auburn 33-24.
Yeah, if you follow the show at all, you know exactly where I'm going with this breakdown. LSU is a joke of a team and has no chance to keep its undefeated record intact. We all know I love Auburn, and Auburn won't disappoint me here by taking out LSU once and for all. Auburn 35, LSU 14. Let's stay in the SEC as number 7 Alabama travels to Tennessee as 17-point favorites. Tennessee is a very un-Tennessee-like 2-4 on the season, including a heartbreaking loss to LSU a few weeks back. After a strong start, Alabama's played poorly 2 weeks in a row, including a stunning loss to South Carolina. But the Tide are big favorites in this one for a reason.
If you predict wrong, try again. I thought Alabama would roll last week. They didn't. I think they will this week. Tennessee was shredded for 41 points last week. You said un-Tennessee like 2-4. Well, that's kind of what they've been the last few years. They're a struggling team. They'll struggle again. Alabama 34-10.
Yeah, Tennessee has played well in big games and actually led Oregon before the Ducks took control in the second half for a big win earlier this season. Alabama may have been shell-shocked a bit last week as it could only score 23 in a win over Ole Miss. So the Tide should be ready to roll against the Vols, and I believe they will. Alabama 37, Tennessee 14. Next is a Big East matchup as Syracuse travels to number 20 West Virginia as 14-point underdogs. We all know the continuing quest for the Big East to gain some respect around college football, and as usual, West Virginia is carrying the banner. That means the Mountaineers have to run the table from here out, including Saturday against the Orange.
Yeah, 2 teams that don't matter because they play in what you like to call the Big Least. But West Virginia is the best of that conference. They should win this game 35-20.
Yeah, luckily for the Big East, West Virginia keeps on winning, and that will continue Saturday with a big victory over Syracuse. West Virginia 38, Syracuse 21. Number 14 Nebraska, coming off a devastating loss to Texas, heads to number 17 Oklahoma State as 5.5-point favorites. The Cornhuskers and quarterback Taylor Martinez were brought back to reality by the Longhorns last week, and now undefeated Oklahoma State is set to keep them there. This should be a good one.
Yeah, it should be. Martinez was contained for the first time last week, and it was a really disappointing loss for Nebraska in their first test of the season. They really couldn't muster any offense against Texas. They should be able to muster more offense against Oklahoma State, but can they stop Oklahoma State's offense, which goes for more than 500 yards passing a game behind QB Brandon Weeden, who's already thrown for close to 2,000 yards? I think Oklahoma State gets it done 32-24.
Yeah, Oklahoma State and its fans are going to be pumped up for this game, but the Cornhuskers should have enough to bounce back with a big road victory. Nebraska 28, Oklahoma State 21. Finally, number 3 Oklahoma, the top-ranked team in the BCS standings, travels to number 18 Missouri as 3-point favorites in a prime-time Saturday night showdown. I'm not high on the Sooners at all, as 4 of their 6 wins have been by narrow margins. Missouri is 6-0 on the season and has made a name for itself on defense. This is easily the biggest test for the Sooners so far this year.
It's the biggest test for the Sooners so far this year, but remember, the Sooners, the team full of quote-unquote disappointing wins against Utah State, against Air Force, against Cincinnati, teams you thought they'd beat by a lot. Florida State, the best team they've played, they dominated. So go figure. If this is what Oklahoma is going to do, show up for the biggest games, then they should win this one. Watch out, though. Missouri's at home. ESPN College GameDay is in town for the first time ever. They should be pumped for this game, but they've only played mediocre opponents. I don't think stepping up against a competition like Oklahoma, I don't think they're going to be ready for that. Oklahoma gets it done 28-21.
Yeah, I would love to see and pick the upset, but I'm not sure Missouri has what it takes to take down Oklahoma. This is the Sooners' moment, and they won't disappoint. Finally, Oklahoma plays like a national championship contender with a big victory on the road. Oklahoma 33, Missouri 24. With that, we wrap up another edition of Brad Carroll's Game Day. Be sure to check out the print version every Saturday in the pages of the Bristol Press and New Britain Herald, on my blog at bradcarrollgameday.blogspot.com, and don't forget College Game Day Rewind exclusively on my blog. For Anthony, I'm Brad. We'll see you next week.